Welcome to Viva la Vulva, the podcast that explores and teaches about the goodness of the vulva. Here is your host, Dr. Kara Quant, an internal medicine doctor and advocate for female sexual health.
Wanting to be intimate, wanting to feel comfortable in intimacy with your partner, and there was nothing out there.
We can break it down even further. Like I used to be very, I was heavy chested, as they say. And let's just be honest, that I'm pretty sure that if that wasn't the first thing, it was at least the second thing that caught my husband's eye. So, when you lose your breast, then you lose what you feel like is that central connection, to your person. That's something that's very personal, and then there's the lack of desire. And again, I used to think something was wrong with me because I had such a high sex drive. So to go from 10 down to a 2, a matter of fact, I might even say a 1.5, a 1, to be quite honest with you. Like it had never been a situation where I would hear my husband come up the stairs and I'd act like I was asleep. I had never done that before, but it was one of those situations because it's like I have no desire to do it. Yeah. And then when you do decide, okay, well, I haven't been intimate with my significant other for a while, it's time for us to reestablish that connection. And then you have the vaginal dryness, you have the bleeding, you have the pain, you have almost this cacophony, if you will, of dysfunction. And I hate to use that word because it's so severe, but that's what it is. Yeah. It's almost as if your body is fighting against you. And I didn't know what to do. So, you're taught that if this is something that's going on and that this is a result of a medical crisis, it's a result of, treatment. Where do you go? You go to your physicians. So I go to my oncologist and she literally sends me to this department that was specifically created to support the sexual health and wellness of cancer patients. And they, for all intents and purposes, told me to get lost. It was just short of them telling me to go to hell. And I was floored. I was floored.
And I'm sure this oncologist probably sent, many other women to the same place. And and you would think, from my perspective, I'm like, okay, I'm sending someone with the trust that it is going to happen, that they're going to get the right care that they need in this department. If I send someone to physical therapy, I'm trusting that they're going to have physical therapy and, help with whatever ailment is going on. So yeah, you would think that would happen, and it didn't happen.
It did not. And it wasn't just that. Like, I was never offered a clinical trial. Clinical trials were never discussed with me. I was the one, of course, that had
for your actual breast cancer.
For my actual breast cancer diagnosis, was never given a clinical trial. Was never provided any information on what to expect in terms of sexual health and wellness prior to my treatment. Never had that discussion. I literally had one of my oncologists really look me in my face and tell me, I don't know what to tell you. I had another oncologist who, at the very least, she told me when my husband went into one of my appointments, and it was very rare that they allowed my husband to come with me because I was diagnosed at the height of COVID. So they wouldn't let anybody do anything with you. And so she says to my husband and I, and she's like, are you all having sex? And we were like, what the hell? Because it just came out of nowhere. And she was like, well, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's literally all she said. No context. No, why are you telling me this? What do you mean? If I don't use what, I lose what? Like nothing. So we had to figure it out all on our own. And truth be told, that is the reason that I do what I do. I'm blessed that I just turned 48 a couple of weeks ago, and I've been with my husband since I was 19. So we've been together long enough where even when we were not comfortable having the difficult conversations, we knew each other well enough that there were some things that went unspoken that we understood, and that the sexual health and wellness component of breast cancer really turned that on its head.
Yeah.
Because you as a woman, first of all, there's so much pressure put on women to be the ones that are sexy, to be the one that drive the sexual intimacy. It's about how we look. It's about how we're able to perform. It's about the tips, the tricks, and pretty much the acrobatics that we're able to, all that stuff that we're supposed to be able to do. And so when you, as the woman, are the one diagnosed with a condition like breast cancer that directly and indirectly in some ways impacts your sexual function, your sexual ability, and even your ability to feel comfortable and sexy and beautiful in your own skin, we are often in those situations feeling like we are the problem. We are the reason that this has gone awry. It's not the cancer. It's not the treatment. It's not, anything else that happens. It's our fault. And many of us take that guilt upon ourselves. And what that does is it blocks our ability to love ourselves. It blocks our ability to give ourselves grace. It blocks our ability to reframe intimacy in a way where even if sexual intimacy is not on the table at any given time, we are still able to nurture the relationship and nurture the connection, not just with our significant others, but with ourselves. And so that's why I do the work that we do, because cancer, it you will never be the person that you were before you hear those words, you have cancer.
Yeah.
You will never be that person. But different does not always mean bad. And one of the things that I mentioned to a young lady I was speaking with earlier is that different does not mean that you are diminished. Different can also mean that you are replenished. Different does not always mean that I have to accept less. What different sometimes means is that I have to find a pathway to experience more. That's how, think about it, Dr. Quine. Think about the fact that when we first started having sex, especially when we're like, however, let's just be on the conservative side here, 18 to 21 years of old, 18 to 21 years of age.
Yeah.
That's when you're doing your best work. That's when you feel like you're learning, as we said, all the tips and tricks and everything you need to know. And then you start matriculating through life, and especially when you find what you like, or when you're in a relationship and you guys find what you all like is, let's get in, let's get out, let's get this done. I know what I like. That's just the end all be all. But one of the things that I do communicate to women and partners that I speak to is that this is such a rich and beautiful time to rediscover your body, to explore what turns you on, what your yeses are, what your nos are, what your maybes are, what you're not in this lifetime or the next, whatever category, whatever activities you and your significant other or others may be interested in. This is one of the most fertile times, because especially because so many of us are, even though more women are being diagnosed under the age of 40, still the vast majority of individuals who are diagnosed with breast cancer and other forms of cancer are over the age of 40, 45. And so it has been so long since we took our pleasure in our own hands. It has been so long since we really had to sit and think and ruminate on what gives me pleasure, what excites me, what makes me want to throw my clothes off as soon as I walk into the door and let my husband know this is the bat signal for putting the children, give them their own activities so we can do whatever it is that we need to do. This is the time to rediscover your body's pleasure map.
It can be a paradigm shift for
Mm-hmm.
women.
Yes.
Because I'm just thinking for myself, like, this is not in comparison to what you've
Oh,
gone
no.
through, but I mean, just like weight gain, there's a certain part of me that I lose with gaining weight, because it's like, oh well, I can't show this, and like maybe it has to be darker in the room, and
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do you help women get to that point of self-love when they're going through a cancer diagnosis or chronic illness diagnosis where it affects the look of their body? Like, what are the first steps that you do? Because I feel like that could, I don't know, it's like therapy, like, mental therapy. I feel like there's a lot.
It's mental therapy, physical
A lot of
therapy,
resources.
spiritual therapy, all those things. But the one thing that I tell women first and foremost is that what you feel is valid. What you feel is not wrong. And I remind them that you chose life. You had a choice and you chose you. Yes, you may not look the way that you used to look. Yes, you may not feel the way that you used to feel, but you are still here. And so many of us feel like, and I felt like this at one point in time, like our bodies have betrayed us in some way. But I try to remind women, your body did not betray you. Your body is actually fighting for you. Your body is actually trying and doing its best to save your life. So just as she is fighting for you, you have to fight for her. Now, one of the things that you did just talk about was therapy. And I am a huge proponent of therapy. It is something that I had to go through. And I know that if I had not gone through therapy, I don't think that I would be able to sit here and have this conversation with you and have the other conversations that I do have with women. Sometimes that is something that really is needed because there are psychological, emotional side effects to the treatment that we undergo just to be able to save our lives. And that is a very real thing. But the other thing that I really try to impress upon women, and I think this is the part that's really difficult, because the first excitement that we get about being a woman is that budding of our breasts. So as women who are diagnosed with breast cancer, when you have to relinquish that part of yourself, and you can say mastectomy, you can use whatever words you want. At the end of the day, that is an amputation of something that has been central to your identity of a woman since your girlhood. And so that is something that is very difficult to overcome. And there are a lot of painful, there are a lot of, negative and detrimental feelings that come along with that. And I encourage women to journal. I encourage women to purge that part of your psyche, that part of your mind, in 3 months, 6 months, even a year. Look back and realize how far you've come so that you can directly tap into that agency of where you were to where you are, and understand the possibilities of where you still have the opportunity to go. And that's not easy. And you can't do it alone. It takes the support of your care team. It takes the support of others who are around you. And it honestly takes you making the choice to decide that I may have cancer, but cancer does not have me. Cancer will not have me. And that is I know it sounds like it's so much easier said than done, and it absolutely is. It takes work, but you're worth it. Your pleasure is worth it. The intimacy with yourself, with others, with the universe, if you will, all of that is worth it. And it's not easy. I was speaking to an oncologist, and she was telling me that one of the things that she recommends to some of her patients is to look at themselves in the mirror, become comfortable, with your scars and, with the things that may be different. But I told her, I was like, I kind of come at it from a different perspective simply because of my experience. I wasn't ready to look in the mirror. I wasn't ready to see those scars. So what I recommend to
like
someone,
immediately.
yeah, yeah. I'm a year down the road, I still wasn't ready. There are some women that I've spoken to that had their mastectomies years ago. they still have sex with a shirt on, pitch black, won't even think about doing it when the sun is out during the day because they're still uncomfortable with their bodies. And so sometimes when the optics are too difficult, it's that tactile rediscovering of your body sometimes that can help ease you into that moment. So I recommend, if there is a type of music that you like, whether it's soft jazz, whether it's R&B, have the lights down low. It doesn't have to be it can just be you. It can be you and your partner, your significant other, whatever it may be. And instead of focusing on sight, focus on the touch. Become acquainted with your scars. Become acquainted with these new nerve endings. Become acquainted with the new contours of your body. And let's just be honest. You are going to feel more ripples, more dents, more dives, more dips than you probably have ever felt in your life. But you have to remember that is still a part of your life. You are beautiful in whatever iteration your body is in at this particular point in time. As challenging as that may be, it is the truth. But you won't be able to see it if you don't believe it. And the most beautiful thing about you, again, is you chose life.
Thanks for joining me today on the Viva La Vulva podcast. I am your host and internal medicine physician, Dr. Kara Quant. If you like this podcast, please let others know and subscribe. Also, if you want to hear more information about what's happening with Viva La Vulva, hop over to our website at vivalavulvala.org and sign up for our newsletter.